I'm on the top of the world looking down on creation.
Hi, I'm V.
And I'm T.
And this is VT Reviews.
Okay, so today we saw Dark Shadows, and we're going to reveal why every family has its demons. Okay, so this is a hard one to explain. We're going to have to do a spoiler alert to start off because we can't explain anything about the show because it's all plot driven. So
and there's a million plots going on at once. So if we say one thing, we're going to have to reveal like a million other things, how it ties in.
Okay, so I might forget things, but let's try and recap the plot very, very succinctly. Okay, so we start, and we're in the 17th of the 18th century, and we're following Barnabas Collins.
Yep.
As he and his family move to Maine.
Yep.
And start a fishing corporation, because that's what they did back in London.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
I assume. So he's a playboy, I guess, because he starts banging his maid when I think he's about 20 or something.
Yeah, I think so.
So he starts banging his maid, and she falls in love with him. That's Angelique. She falls in love with him. He's not in love with her. She gets scorned. So when he actually does fall in love with his real love,
which is love,
Josette, she gets really pissed off and curses them both. Him to be a vampire and her to death.
I think, just to kill herself.
Yeah. Anyway, she jumps off a cliff and Barnabas runs over and tries to save her but doesn't succeed.
Too late. And then he jumps over and then he sort of realises, oh, I'm not dead.
Yeah, and she is. So it's very sad and it's all very dramatic.
So from there, she then turns the town against him, and they get him and they lock him in an iron coffin.
Box. Iron box,
and chain it up, and they bury him out
in the woods.
Yeah.
And then we cut
to 1972 or 19.
Yeah. And we're now following Victoria Winters. She's heading to a job as a governess for the Collins family, which is still in Maine. And we follow her as she arrives to the house and meets everyone. So we've got Michelle Pfeiffer is playing the mother,
like the matriarch of the family, I guess.
Yes, we meet her daughter and her brother.
And his son. And then the doctor that's, the psychiatrist that's there, which is Helen Bonham Carter, looking after the son, because the son is kind of, they think he's crazy.
They think he's crazy because his mother's dead and he's still seeing his mother.
Yeah, he says that he talks to her all the time, and the rest of the family don't kind of really believe in ghosts or anything, so they think he's crazy.
And the governess is there to look after him. Then there's some roadworks or construction.
They're building like a McDonald's out in Route 9 or whatever.
And they uncover his coffin and he breaks out and kills all the construction workers.
Because he's thirsty, because he's a vampire.
Yes. And then he returns to his family home and sees that it's now 1970s and he's confused.
And the house has fallen into disrepair and he's sort of confused, like, because he sees the caretaker outside and he's like, he asks, like, are the Collins family still alive? What's happening? And so he goes in and he meets, well, he sort of just talks about the house for a bit and then meets the kids, and then Michelle Pfeiffer comes down the stairs and she goes to talk to him. And
he finds out that Angelique is still alive and she's in town and she's running his family's business into the ground out of spite, pretty much.
And she's pretty, like, successful at it. She's done it for the last, like, however many billions of years.
So then we get the main plot points, which is that he's trying to rebuild his family business.
Yep, we get a montage.
We get a montage of him doing that. Him trying to deal with Angelique. He sort of, I get the vibe he just sort of wants her to go away and uncurse him.
Yeah.
And then him falling in love with Victoria Winters, who looks like Josette. So yeah, that's pretty much the plot points, but we have a plot overload in this movie.
Yeah, our theory is because Dark Shadows was sort of a gothic soap opera, I think they tried to put as many plots, because Tim Burton was a massive fan of it, so I think, they just tried to put as many little plot threads and as many seasons into one movie as possible.
We didn't watch the show, it's older than us. I've seen the first episode, which is very gothic and very spooky, and it's all about atmosphere. It's actually very interesting because you wouldn't expect that to be on as every day.
Especially as a daytime soap,
Yeah, and I believe it's very popular too, the movie. The movie's very
funny.
Very aware that it's camp and plays on that a lot. So they use musical trills as sort of
which I kind of liked. I thought that was kind of cute. It's a really good way of injecting that sort of into the movie, like, in a funny way, without it just, like, appearing suddenly and have you go, what is happening? So I thought that was a really good way of doing it.
Yes. The good things the movie has going for it is really good performances.
Yeah.
So you've got Johnny Depp, and he's pretty good at this character.
He's good at everything.
Really like.
I actually don't think I've seen him in anything where I haven't liked him.
And we have Michelle Pfeiffer, who apparently asked to be in the movie because she loved the original show so much. And she's playing the
sort of matriarch of the Collins family.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's great. She gets she gets her character across well, and she's probably one of the straightest characters in the whole thing.
But still really likable.
Still really likable. I mean, you've got Angelique, who's very campy, Barnabas, who's almost played for laughs most of the time.
Yeah.
Not as a scary character at all.
No, even when he pops out and he's killing people, he's not. Yeah. He doesn't come off as threatening.
Yes.
And he even says to one of them "Oh, you have no idea how thirsty I am."
A lot of the humour is taken from him interacting with the world, as it is, because he's
obviously from the 17th century, so he doesn't know.
Been in a box for that long.
Yeah, and so
a lot of the humour, I would say, is about him interacting with the world and the people
and seeing the changes and
everything.
So then we've got Johnny Lee Miller is Michelle Pfeiffer's brother in this.
Yes.
We sort of felt we could do without.
Talking about it, we decided maybe he was a big role in the show, so they've put him in.
Yeah, and put his little arc in just so, I guess fans of the show would be like, well, there's the father.
Yeah, they're paying tribute to that character.
But in the movie, he's not there. There's probably chunks of time where he's just not there for about 20 minutes.
And because there's so much going on, they can't focus on a lot of their minor plots. So one of the plots is that he's a neglectful dad.
Yeah.
And that's never really focused on.
No.
It's on it's in two
Barnabas
scenes.
kind of draws attention to it, and then that's it. It's done.
Yeah, it's oh, we're done with that.
But it also
we're done with that one.
Yeah, and that sort of just came out of nowhere as well. We saw that he was neglectful, but Barnabas picking up on it and Barnabas kicking him out was kind of a bit in the middle of nowhere.
And we had another random plot thread where the doctor was taking Barnabas's blood to become a vampire.
Yeah.
That sort of came out of nowhere and was dropped, but I think they were sequel baiting with that, maybe.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Because of the last scene, yeah.
Again, that could have had more attention if maybe you'd cut down a few of the other plots.
And then Angelique was Eva Green, who was fantastic. Yep. She was great at being camp
she was really good.
So Tim Burton is the director.
Yep.
And we found this a bit weird in that it wasn't a typical Tim Burton movie.
Yeah. For a big bulk of the movie in the middle, it's very normal, and Tim Burton is usually anything but normal.
Yeah, if you look at Beetlejuice and Alice in Wonderland and
even Nightmare Before Christmas, how odd can you get? And then to turn around and produce something that is not odd. It's camp, but it's not odd.
It's quirky.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It doesn't have that feel.
Doesn't have that dark feel that it normally does. But I don't know if this is meant to be sort of a comedy as well.
That's true.
Like a dramedy maybe.
Yes.
Because sort of the characters like Barnabas and Angelique and even Helena Bonham Carter's character, they stick out as being very, very Tim Burton-esque. They're very camp and
he's got his mark on them.
Yeah. But I mean, number one, Johnny Depp, Helena Bonham Carter have done just about every movie that Tim Burton has ever directed.
That's true.
So they've got that down pat. They know it. But Eva Green did really well. I don't think I've seen her in a Tim Burton movie.
Right.
She might have done one, but I'm not sure.
She got it though.
She got the feel, and she kind of got her character and did essentially her character is sort of two-dimensional, I guess.
That's true.
She did a very good job.
She did a really good job of making that character sympathetic and being a real person, even though she's an evil witch.
Yeah, but then you've got Michelle Pfeiffer and Johnny Lee Miller and
the kids.
The kids, and the governess.
Oh yeah.
They sort of, I guess they're from the 70s, so, but even I felt, and I don't know if this is just because this girl isn't, has never been in a Tim Burton movie, or maybe doesn't have a lot of experience in acting because she's still fairly new, but the girl that played Josette/Victoria, the governess, I felt like she could have really done a lot with that character, seeing as she had that past life, I guess.
Yeah.
So she could have been more gothic with it.
That's true.
She wasn't overly.
And they didn't costume her as such.
No.
She was costumed very innocently instead of...
Except for at the party, she was in a long ball gown, and that looked very And
at the very end, which is a very Tim Burton-esque moment, which is very beautiful and gothic and pretty much amazing, and probably my favourite scene from the whole movie was not the very end, but the end of their story together. It was beautiful. Crashing water and such, very dramatic.
That was when she sort of really got it, and she was sort of in that moment. So the very end and the very beginning when we see Barnabas' story, Barnaby? See Johnny Depp's story.
Barney's story.
So those moments are very, very Tim Burton-esque, and they're dark and they're like gothic and they're still kind of offbeat, and and even the way like it's like lit and stuff, like that's all very.
It's memorable.
Yeah. And then we've got Danny Elfman doing music.
Yeah.
We've noticed that I think they work together a lot.
They work together a lot, Danny Elfman.
He didn't. Yeah, it was a bit weird because there was some musical bits, but a lot of it was music from the 70s.
Yeah, I know they've done that on purpose, but you didn't get to hear so much of what Danny Elfman has created because you're listening to other people's music the whole time.
Maybe that's what was missing, because in Tim Burton movies, like whether
a dramatic score,
it's always sort of in the background. It's never really
the music just to give part of it.
Yeah, it's quite atmospheric, and that's what makes Tim Burton stuff so like unique, I guess, because he creates this whole world that you just sort of get sucked into for like 2 hours or whatever. And this one, I guess because so much stuff was happening, and you know there wasn't that underscore of like dark sort of music. It was a bit hard to get swept up in it.
Visually as striking, apart from Barnabas himself, who was very striking and stood out. I've got to admit, he did.
Yeah. And like just from like even just the Stark version of his like 1700s outfit and their 70s outfits. He really did stand out, but that like a credit to that is Johnny Depp as well, who just carries himself.
That's true.
Like so well. True. Okay, so the overall feel of this movie,
it was camp.
Yeah.
It got the camp from the original series. It got the drama from the original series.
Yeah, it got a lot of the drama from the original series.
Drama, but it didn't quite capture the gothic nature of Dark Shadows.
No, it was essentially too funny.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe they've maybe done that to appeal to a younger audience.
That's true. But I think it missed the point. I think it will disappoint some fans, because it didn't capture the essence of the show in turning it into a movie.
Yeah, like you pointed out, it's too aware of itself to really capture that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, how many
old houses you stick into it. It doesn't make it gothic. But enjoyment level, I really enjoyed it. We laughed a lot. It's probably not something you need to see on the big screen.
Sorry, Tim Burton.
Johnny Depp.
But
probably not something you need to see on the big screen. Just wait for it to come out.
Okay, so if you're a fan of Tim Burton and Johnny Depp and HBC,
or vampires,
go see it. It's enjoyable.
Yeah,
fun romp.
It is a fun romp. And this is T&V
retreating into the shadows.
I'm on the top of the world looking